Good evening and welcome to the workshop for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting. It's March 28th, 2019. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. The prayer will be with Alderman No, and I will have the pledge. You should all have a copy of the minutes. We will have two proclamations and a certificate of recognition. Then our department reports. Moving on to old business, motion to approve an agreement between the City of Laverne and Penn and Tony Development Company, Incorporated, to provide funding for the matching portion of the State Industrial Access Program. Do we have, I know this was deferred at the last meeting, do we have that organized yet, Evan?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, I was talking to somebody, I apologize.
As far as the agreement with Penn and Tony, do we have that together yet?
I'm still working on it, Mayor, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, but we should have it by Tuesday.
We should have it by Tuesday. Okay. Moving on to number 2, we have second reading, ordinance 2019-06, an ordinance to amend Title 15 of the Laverne Municipal Code, establishing a driver education course and providing for its operation. Again, this is second reading. We just went over this last month. Anyone have any questions on this? Moving on to number 6, second reading, ordinance 2019-07, an ordinance to amend Title 3, Chapter 2, Section 3-207 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding the powers of the city court judge. This, of course, goes along with the ordinance that was just mentioned and we voted on last month. Any questions on that? Moving on to consent agenda. It's like A, approve contract to audit accounts with Yeary, Howell and Associates for the 2018-19 fiscal year. Bruce, is this you?
Yes, I can take this one. This is the annual contract that we get approved to have Yeary Howell do our annual audit. This is for the 2018-19 audit. This is just standard language that we do every year. Once it gets approved here, it goes on to the comptroller's office. I believe the fee this year is $36,750, which is at the bottom of the second page of the contract. And like I said, it's just something we do every year to do our annual audit.
Okay.
Hey, Bruce, with this being professional services, it doesn't get bid out?
No, it's professional services, so yes, it does not need to be bid out.
And how many years has Yearly and how many years have they provided the service?
I don't know an exact number, but it's been quite a few.
So in the MTAS class, they were teaching us the audit services. They send everything to the comptroller's office, but it's good practice to break that up.
Okay.
Not to use the same audit service, so many years. I didn't know if there was a number.
I didn't know there was a number either.
Required.
We can check into that.
Moving on to B, approve change order number 5 for the Lower East Hurricane Creek Interceptor Sewer Line Project.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board. The good news is that the Lower East Hurricane Creek Interceptor Sewer has been replaced. You no longer have an interceptor sewer running underneath Lower East Hurricane Creek. It has been upsized to 24-inch, and I present for your consideration tonight our change order 5, which is to reconcile the estimated quantities from the bid and from the first change order we did to the final installed change orders, or final installed quantities, and to adjust the schedule based on some weather and schedule delays. The net impact of this change order is a decrease of $5,713. And so I would be willing to answer any questions you all may have or would recommend your acceptance of it.
Any questions?
Yes, what were on the 4 change orders, what was the total? Do you have that for the 4 previous change orders?
I can give you an estimate. I believe the first change order was $40,565. And then change orders 2 and 3 did not have any dollars in them. Change order 4 added $560. which gave us a grand total of $1,612,989. And then this decrease of $57.13 brings us back down to $1,607,276.
So it's always a positive when you come with a decrease number.
We do try to be conservative on our numbers. We did have to add some with the first change order when it was determined that a fair amount of the service lines were 6-inch instead of 4-inch. But yes, we do try to be conservative, so it is better. Even with a high number of change orders, the net difference is very small.
That's right. Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then moving on to new business, Resolution 2019-8, a resolution of the City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen to declare property owned by the city to be surplus to the city's needs and directed disposal of the same. Looks like a bunch of vehicles. Is that through your group, Chief Walker?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just some seized vehicles?
Any questions? Those are all seized vehicles. They were either seized for drug violations and awarded to us by the state after it went through the long drawn-out process, or driving unrevoked for DUI.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to Resolution 2019-09, a resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract for the purchase of real property along Stones River Road. This is in your packet. You should have it, the information, but it's for 3 different parcels. This is to, I believe, the east. Is that right, Bruce? As far as direction of some of the original property that we've looked at. And this developer, or not developer, this real estate agent had reached out during Election Day about this property being up for sale, and then afterwards followed back up to see if the city might have any interest in it. But it's at 518 Stones River Road, 514 and 480. Any questions on this?
What would be the plans for that property?
At this point, to see about purchasing it, we don't have any specific plans for it yet. It could be for community center, it could be for, we don't have any specific plans for it yet.
And it says to enter into a contract, so do we have a contract agreement in place already?
We do not. We haven't even started negotiation. In the packet, the actual wording of the resolution goes through and mentions where I'm authorized to negotiate and enter into a contract for purchase, but final approval and ratification will still go through the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, just as with the prior resolution.
Do we know an asking price, or?
I don't remember the original asking price. Bruce, do you remember it? I
I
don't.
believe it was 1.5 million.
And it's how many acres?
That is, I believe, 25.
It's a little over 20, 21, somewhere in there.
And that backs up to the other property that we're negotiating with too.
Yes, they're abutted.
And we're still in the process of negotiating that.
Yes,
And how many acres is that?
I believe that one is 25,
So we're a total of right at like 48 acres.
45 or so.
45. And do you know what the asking price of that is so far?
I believe that was right around $1 million was the original asking price.
Is this resolution, is it just on this particular property, or is this something that's gonna be ongoing with the next mayors or next mayors, or?
This would be for, until it's either decided that a negotiated term cannot be reached, or something can be reached, regardless of who's mayor.
And we are negotiating it, but we don't know. So we're looking at 45 to 48 acres.
This property we've not negotiated.
I'm saying the total, so this 22 to 25 acres is what we're looking at tonight, combined with the other, it attaches the other partial, that's 25 acres, so we're at 48 acres. And we're not for sure what we want to do with that property.
Well, at this point, we've got all different needs. We've had, for several years, people in the community asking for community centers. We've got several different departments who are out of space. It would be up to this board to determine what that use is.
But I don't know that we want to, me personally, I don't know that it's a good idea to purchase land that could be possibly turned into light industrial, backing up to the neighborhood like that, across from our greenway.
I don't think anybody's mentioned zoning anything light industrial.
I didn't say we were going to remove the zoning, but if we were to move Public Works over there or something like that, that would be, to me, would this be something that we'd have a community meeting with?
Well, Public Works wouldn't be a light industrial project, and that's entirely separate.
What would that be?
Go C1,
C1?
government use.
Right, with a light industrial.
No light industrial, just C1, government use.
Okay.
But again, this would, I know it's been discussed before where property, they're not creating new property, and we can either purchase property now, we can wait till the city basically has been bought up and buy it at a higher price. So it's put before this board to see about authorizing for this piece of property that was presented to us.
I'm concerned about being involved with authorizing land when we don't, according to your statement, we don't have a plan what we're going to use for the land.
Well, it's similar to other land that we have that may not be occupied.
What land is that?
On Old Nashville Highway, you mentioned it during the planning retreat.
Right. Across from the Civic Center?
That's open land that we own.
How many acres is that?
I don't know off the top of my head. But again, this is before the board to decide and vote on whether to authorize this negotiation. And then, of course, final ratification will be put before the board.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on, moving on to number 10, Resolution 2019-10, a resolution to write off Water Department bad debts. And I know we don't have Phyllis here. This is something that we run into annually where we have some debt that has gone through Fox Collection. Everyone has in their packets a list of the names and amounts, and so it's totaling, let me go over here, it's totaling $191,597.65. And this is where both the city and Fox Collections has not been able to collect on this. So if you know anyone on the list, feel free to reach out to them and hopefully get this resolved.
And on this resolution, Bruce, it's still got Dennis Waldron as mayor.
Oh,
So we may want to change that.
I'll change that, yes, sir.
Then moving on to number 11, motion to appoint or remove board/committee members. And this is just an FYI, this will not be on the agenda for Tuesday night, but we have several members from the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee whose term is up. Most of those, I believe, are recent appointments, but there'll be some outreach to them to see who would like to stay on the board. And this will show back up for, I believe, the May meeting.
Yes, sir.
They were all so excited. I told them that they'd be hearing from either you or AC. And they were like, well, I just got on here. What do you mean? I said, don't panic. I said, I'm just letting you know that they're not going to be removing you because I don't have any they all want to be there, so.
And I've actually already heard from Roger French who wants to stay on.
He's
so.
worried me to death. I told him today, I said, I didn't mean for you to call Bruce or send him an email. I was just letting you know that Bruce or AC1 may be calling you. So they were concerned, and I said, it's all good. It's okay. I love the enthusiasm, though. I mean, you know, that's great that they're wanting to stay.
Wonderful, wonderful. Moving on to number 12, discussion, residential sprinkler system for larger homes being built in Laverne. Alderman Church.
Yeah, this is something that I was looking into in previous administrations. It's not a popular subject. It really isn't. Like Vice Mayor Brown was saying, it's divided. I mean, it's 50% are for it, 50% are against it, just talking to people in the community. However, there are some rules and regulations coming down the chute. Some are already active, and Chief Clark, is it the 2018 National Fire Code?
Soon you'll be seeing the 2018 International Fire Code.
So from the information that I've received over the last couple of weeks, the Fire Chiefs Association, the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition, the American Fire Sprinkler Association, all these, they have facts, figures. It's really a collage of information. The bottom line is it saves lives. And what I've seen in the past, Laverne, we've made several different things throughout the country, being the fastest growing city. I mean, there's all kind of positives. One of the safest cities in the state, one of the best cities in the area to sell a home. In my opinion, I think that's wonderful news. With that said, I think if we focused on Laverne to make it the best, safest city, would be another feather in our hat. The homes, we've ran some systematic calls from Station 1 to Station 2, and we're going to the Lake Road area. I'm not speaking for the fire department, I'm speaking for my own knowledge and what we're looking into, and they can either confirm or deny. But we are borderline, we're right on the edge of a disaster. And in my opinion, they're building 3,500, 4,000 square foot homes off of Lake Road now. And when Station 2 was designed, it was designed mainly for the industrial park. That's what that station, their rapid response was for the industrial park. So when we added all these new homes, and I'm not knocking the homes, I think they're beautiful. It's a great asset to the community. It's taken Laverne to the next level. With that said, we're putting the residents of those homes in danger due to the capabilities of our existing fire department as today. And we're putting the firefighters' lives on the line, which they already, when they took the job, their life is on the line. So I believe as elected officials, it's our job to make them as safe as we can. We provide them the best equipment, the best training, Laverne is definitely 100% behind its fire department. We are leaving the door open to some huge liabilities and the occurrence of, I followed some of the history of our firefighting here recently, and our house fires are on the rise right now. I mean, these guys are rolling quite a bit. And to a home that's 1,200, 1,400 square feet, to date, it's taking our department as a whole to control the scene, get people in, get people out, reduce damage to property, save lives. They're doing it. I mean, I put them against anybody in the country as one of the best firefighting forces in the country. That's with a 1,400 square foot home. When we put them in a home that's 3,600 square feet, they're going to be the same firefighting team and the same brotherhood, sisterhood that's there protecting each other, but their liabilities go through the roof. And today, we don't have the capabilities to run out and build a Station 4 fire department on Lake Road. It's not something that I'm learning as an elected official. You got to find the money to do that. So what I would like to propose in over the next couple of weeks, working with these guys, is to put together a plan in place to present to this board to create an ordinance and it isn't, it's not passing the buck. What it's doing is solving the problem. And this will be something that the developers, the homeowners, it affects everybody. But I don't think there's one person living in any of those homes in that area, or the new homes that are being built off of Hollandale. Those homes are 3,000 square feet and bigger, right behind Station 3, that Amnon Schreiman's, his new development. Any home at that size, if we create this ordinance like other communities have done, and it's been very successful, it will save lives. If we do not do it, we take on the responsibility when something bad happens to one of the fire personnel or one of the residents in these homes. I feel that this board holds some responsibility. And with the help of the board, because of my abilities, I'm new to this, but I really think this is important. It's factual information. It is recommended by professionals, and if I'd like maybe to hear some comments of maybe from the fire marshal and the chief on their feelings, and not as the fire chief or the fire inspector or fire marshal, as a homeowner too. I mean, because we live in the community, so that's what I have on that. And I think it's something we have to address. And like I said, Vice Mayor Brown she hit it right on the head. It's divided right down the middle. But in this position, sometimes we have to make tough decisions. And I don't think there's a value on one person's life in this community that we can put for us not to do this. And I leave it open for discussion.
Chief Clark, can you address as far as whether you feel with the fire department that Lake Road and that surrounding area is at a disaster point?
It's according to what you define as disaster. Is it a local disaster? Is it a nationwide disaster? Is it a family disaster? Anything that happens to my family, I think that is a disaster. I think that you all would agree about that as well. And I believe that, just looking at statistics, 80% chance of getting out of a fire, that a home that is sprinkled, you have an 80% better chance of getting out of a house fire with it being sprinkled than you would one that's not. Those are facts provided by NFPA. Now, those facts are presented in 2014. We can look up some more of those facts. I will tell you that as a fire chief, I will always promote safety and sprinklers within residential structures. I don't think that when we go to bat, and not to disrespect anybody, but on the agenda it says large homes. Well, just recently, unfortunately, in Murfreesboro, that home was not 5,000 square foot.
Yeah. I was referring to what's existing ordinances in other communities.
Correct.
But you're right, that home was 1,200 square feet.
Right. So, as a fire chief, as a father, as a husband, I look at disasters, whether it's home or those kind of things as defined. We look at, when I define disasters is how our services provide the service. So a disaster is defined as anything that your local resources cannot handle. That's a disaster. I will tell you that any structure fire located in the city of Laverne, it takes all of our crews on our shift. The sprinklers are designed not necessarily to suppress the fire, but allows them time to get out of that fire and escape. There's been deaths with sprinklers. It's not bulletproof. There's been failed sprinklers. There's been shut-off sprinklers. So if we do put an ordinance on sprinklers, the residents can turn them off. So it's not 100% they're gonna live, or they're gonna survive that fire. I will tell you that whether it's a 1,200 or a 5,000 square foot, it takes our whole shift to operate on that residential fire, whether it's 1,000 foot or 12,000 feet. We just don't have the staff. And that's something that we're going to have to overcome over the years. And Fire Marshal Brinkley may want to add to that.
Board, personally, I think you'd be hard pressed to find any fire prevention officer that will not be pro sprinklers. I mean, it's almost kind of a biased thing. Obviously, I'm going to be pro sprinkler on everything. I have personally seen them. We have a demonstration trailer that we recently got from Murfreesboro that you were graciously allowed us to get that has, you know, the ability to demonstrate. I've seen it. I've seen it in person. I've seen it in real life. I've played with it as far as, you know, demonstrations. So they do work, hands down. And what Chief Clark was saying, the stats are pretty much right on. You know, in every three of every 5 house that had automatic systems that failed, it was because the 3 of them were turned off. But he is right on the 80%, you know, so you're looking at 7% of homes with deaths had sprinklers, so a very small amount. When you look at the totality of fires, only 10% of house fires actually had sprinklers itself. And then even more importantly, civilian death rate per 1,000 reported home fires was 81% lower in homes with sprinklers than homes without. I know in previous discussions, you know, I'd heard talk about insurance companies may be kind of against them. I can't tell you if they are or not. I have done some minor, you know, research on the internet and nothing more than just kind of Google searches, so it's by no means factual.
Right.
But I did see where some may even include discounts on the homes that have
That's what
sprinklers.
I've seen.
And again, I don't know. I can't tell you if that's a factual thing or not.
It kind of resembles our ISO rating. It also, there's accreditations for that too. If there's an ordinance in there that assists with our
Yes, sir.
ISO rating,
You know,
so as a community.
but, you know, as a whole, then obviously, yes, I'm going to be pro sprinkler. If it's up to me, I'd have sprinklers and everything, because they do, you know. Sprinklers are, like Chief said, are not designed necessarily to extinguish the fire as it is to contain the fire. And that's why there's multiple. You know, if the fire does spread, then you have additional sprinkler heads that could activate, or if the fire starts in other areas. So they are very beneficial, and they do save lives. I mean, that is proven. But just like in everything, there's always going to be a fail point. Certain things will fail. So, you know, are they perfect? No. Do they benefit? Absolutely. You asked for personal opinion, Alderman Church. I recently built a home. It was my intent to put them in there. But I live a half mile off the road, and unfortunately, due to the geographical location of my home, I could not. Just the way my house, you know, how far it sits off, pressure and different things. So I wasn't able to do that. But it was my intent to put them in my own personal home, you know. So if I don't know if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
The ultimate goal for this is to reduce the risk. That's the ultimate goal. And, I mean, you guys, hands down, like I repeat my comment, you're one of the best fire departments in the nation. But I understand this board, and I'm learning this from the other members of the board, we don't have the money to just go out there and build fire departments everywhere.
Yes, sir.
It's just not there. In the size community we have, the demand is there, but the money isn't. So this would be a huge relief on liability, as well as assistance with the ISO rating, as well as, you know, the homeowners, the cost savings on their insurance. I was reading some things. Some of it's up to 16%. If you take 16% and you take it over 30 years, what they would pay in insurance, it's cheaper than the present system itself.
Okay.
So, so when we say we're passing it to the builders or we're passing it to the homeowners, really we're saving them money, because it's 12 to 16%. In speaking to some of the insurance companies that recommend the systems, so they're saving money by, you know, protecting their family. And it is a hard sell. It's going to be a tough sell to this board to to present something like this as an ordinance, as I'm learning, but it's hard with any ordinance. There's not an ordinance or a resolution that we've passed that is easy. I just feel if there's anything this whole board agrees on, it's the safety and well-being of its staff and its community. So I think we could use that as a beginning point and move forward.
Now, Alderman Church, are you aware that the homes being built on Lake Road right now, actually all are being offered sprinklers, that none have opted to take them?
I am aware of that. Matter of fact, I've met with 2 of the builders and had good conversation with them. One builder says, there's no way. He's not for it. It's not good for him. It's going to increase X amount of dollars. It's going to increase this. And I told him, I said, well, we have a difference there, a difference in opinion. As I was walking through one of his showroom homes, and the real estate lady that was out there, she graciously showed me some things that they do have an opt-in and opt-out. But it's not that easy if you put something in front of somebody and you tell them, you have the option. It's just like buying an Infiniti or a Mercedes. They're both name brand cars. I mean, both of them are really nice cars, just like the houses out there. They're really nice homes. But the Mercedes may have this and the Infiniti doesn't, and the next car, so it's all about the package. I think if there's some decisions this board has to make, and this, if we can go to sleep at night knowing that our fire chief and our fire marshal, they're telling us that they're short-staffed. We can't fix that tomorrow. That's something that we cannot fix tomorrow because of the revenue base that we have currently. As retail comes in and things like that, I think we're going to have the revenue to build more fire departments and man more departments and have more equipment. But today, we don't. We can do this Tuesday or next meeting, next month. And 30 days from now, we could pass this, and starting this summer, we're already making a change to the good. And to me, I think it's a no-brainer. Like I said, I'm learning as I go, and some things, it's hard to swallow. But it's pretty personal.
Speaking of it being personal, is there anyone in this room that has a sprinkler system in their own home? Show of hands, anybody? We all love our families. And we all have the opportunity to get a sprinkler in our home. But if nobody in this room has a sprinkler, and then we're going to make the remaining people that haven't bought their home yet buy a sprinkler, I think that we need to put our money where our mouth is. Now, once everybody in this room raises their hand, yes, we have sprinklers. To me, that's different. But it's like saying, do as I say and not as I do. When the developers when this first came up, previous administration, the developers were telling us that people were holding their contracts and not making a decision to sign because of the sprinkler system, because I think at the time, and the price may have changed now, but it was about $5,000 extra on top of their homes, which are very nice homes. I'm sure that $5,000 wasn't that huge of a difference between, 4 or 5,000 square foot home. That's a big, nice home. So $5,000 for those people is not a ton of money. But at the same time, none of those people that are buying homes are choosing to purchase these sprinklers. Now, we're about probably 90% built out in Laverne, maybe even a little bit more. So even if we do make this, the ordinance, the only thing that will happen is that the nicer, larger homes will not be developed as much or as fast. And then what we'll get is a smaller footprint home, which I think that, when you read online, you can see that a lot of people are against the smaller footprint homes, like townhomes and apartments. So keeping that in mind, I'm just offering a couple of counterpoints. No one in this room has a sprinkler. And I understand, Marshall, that you wanted to have a sprinkler and just couldn't. I understand that. But everyone in here can get a sprinkler as well if they choose to, and everyone in the audience and at home too.
Part that I'm having a problem with is, when we first brought this up, the question was asked about and it might be due to, I dropped the ball on it, I didn't follow up on it, but there was a lawsuit in the Nolensville area of people whose pipes burst. I don't know, the last that I had heard, it was against the builders, but the builders said, well, it was an ordinance and we had to do it, and the municipality was brought into it. And I didn't find out I will find out what the outcome of that case was, but that's something else that we're looking at. We got some of the weirdest weather in the world here. And, you know, at any time, those pipes can freeze and burst. Again, I agree with my colleagues up here. Safety is an important thing. Safety is very important. But to tell someone that you will do this in your own home, that's where the tough sell comes in. When I have been given the opportunity to do it on my own, and I say, no, you're gonna go and make me do it now, after I said I didn't want it. And that's just not a good selling point.
And I agree with both of you, sincerely. You know, the question at hand for us was, do we support it? Absolutely. Again, like I originally said, I think you're gonna have a hard time finding any fire prevention, and that's what I deal with, is fire prevention. Any fire prevention officer that's going to be against something that we know can save lives, it can also save property. So, you know, at the end of the day, respectfully speaking, you know, it's gonna have to take the totality of everything, the costs, you know, the benefits, the pros and the cons, you know, and that's gonna be something obviously for, you know, the board to decide on whether or not you wanna do. The only thing I can speak on is, as a profession, do I support it? Absolutely, you know, 100%, because I do understand. But then I also understand what you're saying. You know, can someone go in and retro a house and add sprinklers? Absolutely. You know, the cost will be substantially higher, and that's probably why the majority of people that have existing homes don't go back and get them. And it may be because they just choose not to have them at all. As far as, you know, the code standards, realistically, this isn't going to play anything in the fire department, other than, you know, some additional safety and measures. The sprinkler system falls under the residential code, which is going to be enforced by the actual codes department. You know, we deal with commercial stuff in the International Fire Code, which is traditionally commercial related, things that are open to the public. So as far as the stats and, you know, how they're installed, whether they're insulated properly and so forth, you know, I can't give you an answer on that. I'm sure, and not speaking for Chief, I mean, we'll be happy to pull any, you know, information that you want us to do to present to you guys on, you know, the benefits, pros and cons and so forth. So.
Fire Marshal, is there any municipalities or in Rutherford County or even the county itself that mandate required residential sprinklers?
In Rutherford County?
Yes.
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Okay. And then do we have, even thinking about it from, because I know we have it in place on businesses for commercial for certain sizes. Now, do we have even some of those businesses that will come and modify their structures so that they get in just under that threshold so that they don't?
Yes, sir. I mean, I can't tell you that's why that they're choosing to build buildings under 5,000, but I can say that they're, you know, a lot of the buildings that we do review on tech reviews and such do come in just slightly under the 5,000 mark.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bruce, if any ordinance was drafted and put together, would that need to go through Planning Commission first, since it's a change to the code?
No, because this would be municipal code that adopts the building codes.
Okay.
That's right.
And typically, I think what the plan is right now, once Randolph gets back from his medical leave, this will be one of the first things he has to address, is adopting the 2018 codes. And so as a part of that, you know, this board will need to decide whether they want to adopt the code in full, which would include those sprinkler requirements, or you would have to opt out of the sprinkler requirements. And so that's the decision that'll come before this board here in probably 2 or 3 months.
Are you aware of any cities in Rutherford County that have opted out of it as far as the sprinkler
What
ordinance?
I've heard, everybody in Rutherford County has opted out of the sprinkler requirements, but I don't know that 100% myself.
Okay,
That's what I've heard.
thank you.
So, you being the fire marshal, how big a difference when you go into a business or even a home has sprinklers and everybody got out safe as far as the actual damage that was done to the home? Not that, I mean, that's second importance, but has there been like a substantial less amount of damage done to the home that had sprinklers as opposed to a home that didn't? Or is that something you can even talk about?
The residential side is going to be hard just because we currently don't have many homes, if any, that have sprinkler systems. As far as the commercial side, absolutely. You know, typically what you run into is a substantial amount of property saved that can be restored through restoration processes, you know, that may be wet or something that have sprinklers. So yes, they do act. We had a fire 3 or 4 months ago that an actual water line had ruptured by a hot water heater, and the suppression crews actually thought it was a sprinkler. Essentially, it acted as a sprinkler, and it did, I mean, contain the fire to the garage area. So it acted as a sprinkler. It would have contained a fire there, whether it was, you know, it was up high, the placement of it, it acted like a sprinkler system. Was it actual sprinkler? No, sir. Did it perform in the same fashion as a sprinkler? I would say professionally, yes, it did. So can I say that they've been beneficial on the commercial side? Yes, sir, 100%. Residential, I don't really have any personal data to back that up because we don't have them for me to go in and follow up investigations to determine to say yay or nay.
So what kind of, on the commercial side, what's the biggest failure? Is it the water lines? Is it the upkeep? Is it wear and tear?
Here recently, we received a commercial fire on Murfreesboro Road. Is back in December or maybe even November, which they had added on inside that facility, which they had sprinklers and all those, but they had built an office area that did not have that area. So that eventually we contained it by attacking that fire ourselves. It was still contained within that office area, but you know they had sprinklers there, if I believe, and didn't they have it in there?
Speaking of the one, the basket.
Right over here?
Yes, sir. So the warehouse, yeah. That one, the sprinkler, when they did the addition inside, of course, it was retroed years ago before, you know, current codes and stuff are enforcing. The build out inside of it did not have a sprinkler. Actually, it did have a sprinkler inside of it. The fire started directly on an adjacent wall, which heated the copper piping that fed the sprinkler, and through conductive heating, it actually went through the pipe and then triggered on the inside of the office, which then oversprayed back. I mean, so yes, it did benefit on that particular fire.
So the bottom line on all this,
It buys us time.
the bottom line is almost money versus safety. You know, you can call it what you want to or sugarcoat it, but that's basically what this is all about. Builders, homeowners, you know, do we have the right to tell people what to do in that situation? No, but we tell them they can't let their grass get too tall, but we can't save their life, so.
The answer to your question, Alderman, no, was you asked for the biggest deficiency that I find in commercial. The commercial setting, as far as deficiencies are concerned, you know, it's lack of them getting them inspected. And of course, that's a codes issue, and we enforce it accordingly, and then they typically come in and get it corrected. As far as failures, the failures that we typically see primarily in the warehouse area where the heads have been, struck by an object, a forklift or something of that nature, which would then activate the head. As far as system failures itself, to where one just activates, I don't know of any.
No way to tell.
No, sir. The fire suppression crews, when a water goes off like that in a sprinkler facility, they're alarmed. So it's going to trigger what we would call a water flow, signifying water's flowing through the system, which is going to signal a fire department response. Once they respond, they get there, they try to contain as much water, shut the system off. They help the companies, sustain less damage from water, and then they shut the system down, and then typically maintenance would come in and replace the head, and the system's right back online. So as far as, hard facts, I can't give you that. It's just something that we don't keep up with that. Yes, sir.
One of the things that, it's kind of funny that the chief of Nolansville Fire Department showed up at my office today to get a burn permit. And we were speaking, and we were speaking about residential.
That's
It's eerie, but anyway.
it's amazing how that happened, isn't it?
So anyways,
And he can do that online now, you know that, right?
sir?
He can do that online now, you know that, right? Get that permit.
Oh, yeah. But anyways, we discussed that. And one of the things that I think that we really need to think about if you do decide that you're going to do residential sprinklers is some of the things that we need to do is review what Nolansville has put in place. I do know that they had many on the first generation of sprinklers in Nolansville. They did have ruptures due to weather and stuff. So basically, it's up to our codes to really establish those standards and then inspections very well in construction, so that the resident does not that buys that home does not have these types of incidents that happened in the past.
It's just like your electrical code inspection, your footers inspection.
That is correct,
your
but they
plumber.
need to be stringent
Right.
as far as during those inspections, because eventually it's going to save them a whole lot of money for a contractor that goes in there and has either piping issues. You know, you find out that there was a recall on certain PVC pipe or sprinkler head. So we just really need to be on top of the codes inspections if that's what you adopt.
Chief, do you support mandatory residential sprinklers?
Sir?
Do you support mandatory residential sprinklers?
Of course, I'm a fire chief. Absolutely.
I think Alderman Church said it best when he said that we took this job on and we're gonna have to make tough decisions, so we're not gonna be able to make everybody happy, so when the time comes, we'll just have to make that decision.
And what I'd like to do, Bruce, if you'll look into it, the opt-out is our way out of it. If we adopt the code as stated, we don't have to create a resolution or anything.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
And after speaking to people in Metro and Nolansville and Franklin, it is coming. So today, the county, there's no one here in the county that does this. I would love to see Laverne be the leading agency in the county to add one more element to save lives.
So if we adopt the ordinance,
We don't have to
and
have a
then we
resolution.
give them the opportunity to yea or nay, and they say no, and then something happens, then it's on them.
No, if we adopt the 2018 International Code, it's law, and it's just like your plumbing codes and your electrical
I
codes.
got you.
So,
And basically, if you do not want the sprinkler regulations, you would have to opt
Opt
out
out,
of those
yeah.
requirements.
that's how I understood it too.
I remember when this came up, I didn't pay much attention to it then, but now I am, but I remember back during the previous administration, there was a lot of
And according to the code,
cutthroat.
it breaks it down to square footage, the new international code.
Alderman, I'm not for certain.
Yeah, I
Again,
was just
like said,
looking at
that's-
it.
I can tell you that you are correct, Mr. Richardson. You know, when we get ready to adopt the fire code, and it's the same with the international
It's
fire
the
code.
same as international.
Like Randolph and I, Mr. Sawyers, we'll sit down together and we will go through the code itself, and we'll determine what we think is beneficial to keep and what we think is not. There's a lot of things in there that require permits that, you know, the city just doesn't require permits for. So for liability reasons, since we're not going to enforce that said section, we'll, you know, redact ourselves from that. So it may, you know, in ordinance, read a specific section that we do not enforce. And the same would apply to the sprinkler, you know, situation, but that's going to be within the international residential code. So it's one of those that you can determine to accept the code as is, which I'm sure, not speaking for, but I would think that Mr. Sawyers would probably have some, you know, recommendations to add and take away in certain instances. But if you decide to go with it, then, you know, it's either you modified what the code has, to fit, the standards for the city and what this board sees fit, by recommendation of staff, or you opt out of that section altogether by recommendation of staff. And I'm speaking on, residential codes and such. So that's typically how the process would work. The fire officials and code officials and building officials sit down and kind of come up. And a lot of times what we'll do, and I've already started doing, is compare with, neighboring municipalities. So Laverne somewhat stays consistent with building, commercial buildings, because we want to be, friendly for builders, but also we want to make sure that the city, the buildings are being built safe. So a lot of times we'll consult with other municipalities. Obviously Murfreesboro's larger. What they can provide is different than what we can in some aspects. So it's a lot of work go into that. But I will say that's something that will probably have to go in effect sometime in July. Just
Right.
because we're only allowed to be so many years behind the most current code. And with the newest code coming out, we're going to have to move forward to the 2018. And that will be the entire international code series, including fire and residential.
And that's the July 1 is the new fiscal year that it's adopted. So I would like to keep this on the agenda for discussion. And we have, if it's okay with the board, I can get a couple people to come that, from other areas that actually have this, and just to help illustrate the benefits of it.
Would that be better for whenever we're actually voting on, or whenever we get closer to actually discussing this adoption of the code and voting on
So
it?
it's April, May, June, July, so we have 3 meetings, so whatever the mayor sees fit.
So I ask you the same question that the mayor asked Chief. Are you for mandatory residential fire sprinklers?
I'm for anything that's going to protect life and property from fire. To me, I view it as a smoke detector.
I guess that's really not a fair question to ask a person that works in the fire department, is it?
And that's kind of what I addressed in the beginning. In all fairness, I mean, I think you're going to be hard pressed to find any firefighter, especially ones that deal with prevention from an administrative level.
Let's change this up a little bit. Chief, not this chief, come on, Chris, get out the way. There you go, you're hiding over there, chief. In your profession, you've been around, you've done both, fire and police.
Yes.
And
I've done fire longer than law enforcement.
I was gonna keep that a secret, but.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Volunteer, but yeah.
There's actually
been through
some
an awful
pictures
lot
out
of
there.
training.
There's actually some pictures of the chief out there with no SCBA on fighting fires.
How
It's
old,
because we didn't have them.
how exactly old is he?
That would be, the chief have to answer that question.
How many years? March the 1st, 1974, I was appointed chief of the Dunlap Volunteer Fire Department.
Dunlap. So what's your answer, Mr.
My
Knight?
answer, as a public safety official, I would love to see a requirement that every facility have sprinklers, because it will save lives. It's like telling you, put your seatbelt on.
Yeah.
It's like telling you, don't tint your windows so dark you can't see out and see people in the road. It's like telling you, drive the speed limit. It's like telling you, move over or slow down, et cetera, et cetera. It's like telling you to wear a motorcycle helmet. You're a dummy if you don't.
And being the strong-minded person that you are away from the job, how do you feel about somebody telling you you've got to have a sprinkler system in your home?
There are some things that I think, because of our own resistance and lack of concern for our own safety, especially our families, we tell parents to buckle their children up and use the proper restraint device in the proper manner, and we teach them to do that.
That's a good answer.
Now, one thing that I have heard said is we all have the opportunity to put sprinklers in our homes. Yeah, but you know how much more it costs to retro? I don't think you could retro our house, because it was added on to in the late 90s, 98, somewhere right in there. And I don't think it would be feasible. I also know from what I remember from the conversation previously about Nolensville, is there apparently was a contractor who did the installation incorrectly by not ensuring that it was properly treated, protected from the elements. That's the reason it froze and burst.
Now, this is just for newer homes, for new homes being built.
It would be
This is
for
not
new construction.
Not for retro, yeah.
Not for existing homes,
Right.
only new construction from that time forward.
And if we pass this, as we're going towards the new ISO rate, I think you're coming up, what, next year for that, Chief?
I haven't set that time yet.
Well, we're about there for the next round of that, I'm sure. Hopefully, we have a new department sitting over there before then. That sure would help things.
Mr. Brinkley, thank you. We've got a gentleman that'd like to come up and ask a question,
Well-
I think.
Citizens forum, usually the rules of order don't allow residents to come up and speak during the meeting.
Sorry.
Thanks.
That would be for citizens forum. Any more discussion? Okay, moving on to mayor and alderman comments. Alderman Jones.
I have noticed, nothing. I just wish everyone would keep our past mayor in your thoughts, due to his loss, and anybody else that's lost a family member, just in your thoughts.
Alderman Church.
Yes, there's a lot going on in the country and in the world. We just need to join each other in prayer, definitely. There was a lot of Muslims, people that their lives were taken, and then, 4 days later, a group of Christians' lives were taken. And, we have it really good here in Laverne, and we don't need to take advantage of that. There's people all over the world dying because of their beliefs, and we get to sit in here and fight and argue and agree, and knowing we can walk to our car safely. So I think that in itself has value to it.
Alderman No.
I want to praise a couple of people, if that's okay. David McGowan has been coming to the senior center. Man, he's got it looking good. Wait a couple of days and y'all come by and see it. It's going to be awesome. AC and his guys have been out there. They put lines on the parking lot so the seniors can see where they're parking. And I just want everybody to remember, man, coming April 27th, we are going to have one epic yard sale at the senior center. I'm going to talk about that again at the meeting Tuesday, because you ain't going to be able to shut me up. We're going to blow it out.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Brown.
No, thank you.
Well, I just want to thank everyone who came out to the Planet Fitness ribbon cutting that we had yesterday, as well as the ribbon cutting with Brookside. Those were definitely long overdue, and we're glad to see those businesses and homes coming to the community, and we've got more in the works. So with that, call this meeting adjourned.